Alright, brother, I finally got this thing out of the enclosure. I could tell it looked like you built that enclosure around this thing, man, because it was a tight fit. I could not get it out without taking these copper angle brackets out. But I got it out. And I got the two driver 1446s took out. This is the wrong wraps for a pair of 1446s, so I'm gonna get that wrapped properly. So basically what we're looking like here, man, is of course one of the 1446s were blown and the other one is good, but it's leaking. It's leaking about 0.08 milliamps, so that's not good. I'm not going to use that. What I'm going to do, man, is I'm going to go through my used transistor pile over here and see if we can find you another 1446 that matches. And if I can't, I might be able to see if I can use two HGs. And I am waiting on my stock to get here right now. So I only have one HG 1446, man. I usually keep a little more than that hanging around, but I've done a lot of repairs here lately. But I can't wait to see what this thing does, man. I think you said you had it doing around at 400 bird at one point. We're going to get these pieces of coax removed, man. Get you some RG316 on there. Be a little bit more easier to maneuver. Make sure they're all the same length. That's the main reason I'm removing it. I haven't made my mind up. I may leave this on the output. I'm going to remove this. So you've got straight wire going. You can just have another straight wire going up to the SO. There's really no need to have a coax on the output. I like that keying circuit, man. You use a keying circuit like that with a 32 pill, boy. Alright, man. We're going to keep on rolling with it. You've done a good job on this thing, man. I still don't recall where you got this board from, or if you made it yourself. But it's neat, man. It's real neat. I like it. Two of them chained together. Pretty cool, man. Pretty simple design too, you know. It'd be pretty easy to etch yourself. It's nice. I like it. All right, brother. We'll be back. Hopefully making some watts. Hey, brother. Just want to show you something real quick. Luckily, I did find a transistor to match this other one, man. This is the last 1446 that I got. So we got two 1446s. Here's what I wanted to point out. I'm sure you already know this, but I just want to state just in case, you know, it's very, very, very important for these transistors to sit as flat as possible on the heat sink. When I removed the transistor, I could see there was some you know, it needed to be, there were some burrs sticking up from the holes, and you had to use these type screws. The reason why we use machine screws is they tend to torque a little better when it comes to aluminum. I like using Allen head screws myself because to me it feels like I'm able to get, you know, better torque of you know, torquing the transistor down. Of course, you know, you got to find that happy medium, because if you torque it too hard, you're gonna break the head off, and then you're really in some trouble. But so what I went ahead and did is went ahead and drilled out the holes, and I'm tapping them now to put my Allen heads. And I'm just gonna let you know so you'll know for the future. I use a 1/8 drill bit. Okay, a 1/8 drill bit, and then I tap it on out like you see me doing now. It's just a 4-40 tap. There's a 4-40 screws I'm going to be putting in. And I do use Phillips screws at times with certain applications. And the way that I deburr my stuff is either with a deburr bit, or like with yours, I couldn't use the deburr bit because it was going to interfere and hit the strip. I just used the end of a big step bit, man, and as you can see, it deburrs it beautifully. Alright, brother, I've already removed the whole board out of the box. I can't even remember if I've done a video clip of that or not, but I removed the board out of the box so I could work on it a lot easier, and did a couple of things to it. I went ahead and replaced the disc coax. Believe it or not, they were actually close to being the same length to each other, just a tad off, but actually they were pretty close. So you did a good job on that. I just went ahead and changed it to some Teflon coax, and I am going to attempt to leave this in here, because you know, you really don't want to use that coax for the output going to. This coax is a little small to let all the power of the box go through so I'm going to definitely probably leave this on it that you have, and these appear to be the same length. I already measured them, so I'm going to attempt to leave that as long as everything goes well. One thing I did notice, bud, I know you probably didn't even notice that you had done it, but all 4 of the input transformers were directly soldered to ground. You don't want to do that. You need some sort of inductance going to ground, or at least a resistor. We usually use inductors when you're working on a Class C device. See, some people think it's just okay to make it go directly to ground. Yeah, it didn't say it won't work that way. You will notice that you will have a very high dead key that's almost hard to tame. It's always good to put a little bit of inductance around, anywhere from 15 to 30 microhenries at least. You had 22 microhenry inductors, these on there, and I'm not saying these wouldn't work. We just like to use inductors that are a little bit thicker in wire, at least 20 gauge. You can get away with 22 also. But I just went ahead and wrapped you up around 22 microhenry inductors using 1/2" beads of 43 material to ground. And I went down there in the Dremel. I got all the solder away and went down there with a Dremel just to be safe, to make sure they wasn't touching. So that's one thing I did for you, man. And we've got the 2 transistor section already tuned out. Okay, see, right now the 2 transistor section is the only thing that's hooked up. I got a 250 watt slug in right now, so we are reading the top scale. See, so that's about maybe a 10 watt dead key, I guess. About 60 watts RMS or so. PEP, about 250 watts. Here's your input tune. Barely moving. Just a tad bit. Beautiful tune. And I will admit, man, I put these trimmers in here basically where a 1446 box normally would tune at. And they didn't tune anywhere near where one normally would, but that's also because these things are in a different environment. My 1446 two-pill amplifiers that I do I usually use a different output combiner. went ahead and left these on here. I see now that it was okay for me too. I almost was one to take them off and replace, but you know, I'm trying not to do too much if there's no reason to do it. And I had to install this tuning port back here. So, because what we're doing, man, is we're tuning the 2 transistor section, okay? Then we're going to tune the 8-pil section. All right, and then instead of the 2 transistor section and the 8 transistor input, the output of the 2, the input of the 8, instead of them sharing one tuning port like you had it, they're going to have 2 separate tuning ports, and I'll show you that when we're all said and done. But as you can see, this is tuning the output right here, this trimmer, okay, and this trimmer is going to be tuning the input. I may just leave this trimmer on for you the way that you've got it in here. I mean, one of the main reasons I always take my trimmers out is so nobody will come in after me and try to play around with them, get the box out of tune. But you know, you built this thing, man, so it's a little bit different of situation. So I'm thinking about probably just leaving this trimmer in for you. You can mic this in later if you want to, and where it's at, it should be good. What I am going to do though is I am going to put another capacitor with this probably, and to least so they can share the load of the drive that's going into it. But either way, the capacitor is big enough to handle. Now, putting this right here on the output, no sir. I've seen messengers, some other people try to get away with that before, and I have found so many trimmers that are blown being on the output of an 8 transistor section. All right, and for your tuning on your output, we are now rocking with a brass tuner. I mean, we're dealing with 8 transistors here, man, so it's good to have you a decent sized tuner. Now, this is something I could have done. I could have put my brass tuner, my temporary brass tuner that I use in here, and tune the box out and throw you a doorknob or something in. But just to make things a little quicker and easier, and also for when you get it back, if you want to play around with it yourself, I put a brass tuner in here, so you can adjust it if you feel the need to or want to play around with it, man. It's all about, this is what this stuff's about, man, playing around with stuff and learning, making mistakes and learning. Alright, buddy, just want to do a quick video and show that to you. I'm going to go ahead and work on getting the 8 transistor section tuned out, then I'm going to put them together and see if there's any, needs to be any adjustments. And if there needs to be any adjustments, I'm going to make the adjustments. If not, then either way you go, I'm going to go ahead and mic in this one, and then we'll be good to go. And I'll do a final video of the final box. Alright, I'll be back. Hey brother, I'm having some problems with the keying circuit. I'm sitting here tuning the 8-pil section, and I had an issue with the keying circuit while I was working on the 2-pil section, and it just quit keying. I kind of just checked out the area and kind of moved everything around right here, making sure there wasn't nothing, you know, cold solder joint or anything, and it started working again. Well, the same things happened. I took the diodes out of place, and they're good, but I still put 4 new ones in. It keyed the first time, and now it ain't keying again. Look at that, it's keying. Hell, now it's just stayed keyed. I think something's up with that transistor for some reason. I don't know if that was a new transistor. Yeah, either something's up with the transistor or the capacitor. Looks like it's a 33 picofarad, and you know you can use about 33 to 60 something for these. I kind of hate that, man, because it kind of comes part of your input. Hey brother, I've got the 8-pil section tuned out now. There's still something going on with this relay, man. I put my keying circuit in there, and come to find out, it appears that it's doing a little better, but for some reason, just out of nowhere, at times it'll quit keying. And if, you know, at first, you know, I thought it was like going into oscillation or something, but it was just like the relay quit keying, almost like it just quit getting power all of a sudden, or, you know, I saw that there was 2 diodes on the coil down there, which I don't know why there's 2. You only need 1 down there if you wish to use one. That's to shun any of that extra static that's built up into the coil after all that key in the ground. But I don't know, man. If you have any problems with that happening, you may just want to just switch that relay out, bud. If you could fit it, you could fit one of them big, I can't grab one right now, but some big 30 amp relays, it's pretty good. But check this out, man. Alright, I'm just hitting it with the hot radio, okay? I've got the power supply on the medium tap. It ain't even on the high tap. Alright, we're just hitting this with a radio. This is just the 8-pill section, okay? The 2-pill section is bypassed. This is just the 8-pill section. Just hitting it with a single final hot radio, okay? Which is about 30-40 watts drive, 8 RMS. And this is what we're getting. Oh, about 220, 230 RMS. PEP. Oh, 900 watts, man. So that's just a radio, brother. So that's pretty good, brother. Pretty good. So once I get in here and mic in the driver, we'll see what I'm going to be doing now. As you see, we've got trimmer, you know, trimmer pretty much, but brass tuner. So we got 4 trimmers in this thing, okay? So now what I'm going to have to do is unhook what I've got hooked up, bypass the 2-pill section, and basically hook a wire from here to here, here to here. You could hook maybe 2 resistors, 3 resistors if you'd like. You know, or at this point, some people would like, you know, get a little wild and throw them a relay up here so they could bypass, you know, turn the 2-pill section on and off, which would require 2 more pieces of coax. But basically, I'm going to be hooking a wire from here to here, just short run here to here, and then I'm going to key up the whole box by itself, or excuse me, the whole box, the 2 into the 8. And then we're going to see how she's going. And if everything looks good, the input still looks good. The output still looks like where it's at. I will mic everything in, and then we will hook this bad boy up to a bigger power supply. I'll probably hook it over here on the my lower voltage 200 amp supply. I've actually got a 12 volt unregulated 200 amp supply over here. And then I've got my pretty much 16 volt, 15.5 volt unregulated 200 amp supply. I'm all unregulated over here, man. Working on getting regulated soon. But anyway, once I hook the 2-pill section up, hook everything back up, hopefully we'll be good to go, man. I'll do one final video. And thinking about coming out here tonight and keying on it just a little bit and make sure everything's good to go with it. And they've got a little roll call out here in northeast Georgia on Saturday night, so I thought I'd get out there with it and have some fun, man. You know, not get too nuts with it, just a little bit of mild testing just to make sure everything's going to hold up, and then we'll put the bolts back in here and get the top back on there for you and go from there. Cause I know I got a lot I got to get done, man. I am backed up over here like you just wouldn't know. I've got about 6 things that I'm supposed to be getting done this weekend, and ain't none of them simple projects either. 900 watts peak, 230 plus bird. Just hitting it with a single final radio going into 8 MRF454s. We'll be back. All right, brother, all done. It was fun doing this for you, man. You built yourself a unique amplifier here, bud. You know, as you know, the Motorola 454s, you're not going to get as much out of them as you would Toshiba 2879s or Motorola 421s. I built a couple of 4-pill 454s. I've never built an 8-pill like this, so you've got me on this. Whenever I built a 4-pill 454, you pretty much was looking at around 250 to 300 or so RMS is what I would normally get out of one. You know, to make them do 400, you'd have to overdrive them dramatically. So basically, through the small videos I've made, I went through here and already explained everything that I've really done, that I believe. And I did think I did mention to you that I went through here and thickened up on the solder on all the paths. Now, you probably would get a little bit more power out of the box. And for future projects, if you just think about it like this, the power comes in to this section right here, okay? The power wire. Alright. It's got to travel through here to go into that one first, then to that one second, okay? And it's got to travel through this wire over here to get to this one. And this one back here, really, about that. Like I was saying, these two right here will be the ones that will be starving for current the most, just because of how far they are away. Now, before I had thickened up on the solder, they were just relying on something paper thin for current to flow through. But the way these boards are set up, if you would have came in with like 4 10-gauge wires, that'd have been a pretty good little way to do it. You could have come in and dropped one 4-gauge, for example, right here, or right in the middle right here. Or you could even have come in with 2 8-gauges. Let's say you brought in one 8-gauge and dropped it right here, another one and you dropped it right here. Or 4 10s. Let's say, for example, you drop 1 10 right here, 1 10 over here, 1 10 right here, 1 10 over here, so the power is equally dispersed. And right now, you know, they've got to travel down the line. It's just the way it works when it comes to power wire. That's why you see a lot of people don't even use anything bigger than 8-gauge wire with their amplifier builds these days. I know I don't. I rarely use 4-gauge anymore. But I did thicken up on the solder to help with that. And so basically, when I got everything tuned out and put together, the first thing I noticed, man, when I keyed up, is it keyed up with a 600-watt dead key. I kid you not. I'm dead keying under a watt with the bench radio. Under a watt. A little bit under a watt. So that 1 watt went through the 1446s into the 8 and developed a 600-watt dead key. I was like, goodness gracious. That kind of shows you right off the top that the 1446s are a little bit too much drive, if you ask me, for this particular setup. You wouldn't think it would be, but that was a good indication that they were. And, you know, you don't have a variable. So whenever a box doesn't have a variable, you got to kind of make up your mind what to do. Now, I did have a 10 ohm resistor right here coming across just to start things off. So the first thing I did after that, when I seen that the dead key was that high, I went ahead and dropped a 47 ohm resistor in here. Okay. As soon as I did that, the dead key dropped literally 300 watts. It was dead keying right at 300 watts at that point. And that was still a little too high for my liking. Now, it may be fine with you. You may see, it's all really what you want, because at that point, you know, me or you or whoever's running it could just turn the dead key down on your radio and just brought it down maybe to about a 200-watt dead key or so. You know, that would be on you. But just for the time being, what I went ahead and did then, instead of putting a bigger resistor right here that would just get hotter, I went ahead and tried a 100 ohm right here to ground. So we created a voltage dividing circuit. As soon as I put this 100 ohm resistor right here on your RF pad to ground, it dropped it to about a 100-watt dead key. And I was like, okay, we'll roll with that. So, to keep in mind, you've got an attenuation circuit right here that's knocking your input signal down. Okay, I don't know the actual dB of it, I hadn't got that good where I can just look at it and do it in my head what the actual dB of it is. But keep that in mind. You know, of course, if you take this 100-watt resistor and lift one leg up, you know, or take it out, the box is, of course, going to do more output. Okay, so that's going to be all on you. You know, let you make that decision, let you play around with it. You can lift this leg up and play around if you want. Because, of course, when I've added this more resistance, yes, it's dropping the dead key, but it's also dropping a little bit on the top end. Now, I remember you saying that at one point in time when you had built it, you were able to get it to do somewhere around 400 bird. I just remember you saying that. So it looks like we're getting a little bit more than that out of it using the hot radio. Then, of course, you know, if you played around with attenuation and your dead carry on your radio, you would be able to get the same amount out of it with lower drive. But I'm just gonna show you what it's doing with the bench radio and with the hot radio. So just wanted to explain that to you. And one more thing, when you get the box, if you want to, you can peak tune it. Just get down here, you know, don't do it while you're keying, of course, but just get down here and just adjust this real slow increments, you know, key up, you know, do your thing with that and just peak tune your box if you want to. Just get that. I've already peak tuned it over here on the dummy load, but you may want to do it again when you get to the house on your antenna or whatever you'll be using. And then after you get it to where you really want it to, you might want to throw a little bit of hot glue or some epoxy or whatever, just to make sure if this is going to be in your car that this never moves. It's always good to put a little something on there so make sure it won't move. Okay, I checked your flow through. You don't need any kind of capacitance added to your relay because this is your flow through. Looks good, nothing dramatic. Alright, turn the box on. We're using a 4-watt radio, 4 watts RMS. We're on a 1,000-watt slug. We're looking at the bottom scale. So you know how to read a bird meter. Come on now, focus. Focus. See, we're a little bit lower than the 100-watt dead key. We're actually at a 50 now. It was at a 100-watt dead key at that point because I think I was on the bench radio at that time and had the dead key up a little bit. So as you see at this point, now let me share this with you. I had to learn this the hard way. As you see, we've got a 50-watt dead key, you know, so we could take a little bit of attenuation off. At this point, if you wanted to, you could change the 47 down to a 33 ohm. Down to a 43 ohm, just down a little bit more. So you could take the 47 down and change it to a 33 ohm, see what happens over there. Or you could take this right here. Now keep in mind, right here, the more resistance you add, the more resistance it puts on your signal because the signal is flowing through it in series. But right here, it's the opposite. Boy, I know it took me 2 years to learn this. It's pretty embarrassing, but it did. Right here is the opposite. The more resistance you add right here to ground, the less resistance is going to be putting on your signal. So the smaller the resistor right here gets, the more it's going to be putting resistance on your signal. So for example, if you put a 10 ohm resistor right here, shoot man, you'd probably have nothing coming out. Yeah, that resistor would be getting very hot. So for example, right here, if you wanted to, instead of 100 ohm, you could maybe drop back to 120 or 140. I've never really personally put anything bigger than 180 ohm when I'm doing a voltage dividing circuit like that. I've seen Texas Star go as high as putting like 360 ohms on some of their modulators and stuff at times, if I remember correctly. But as you see with the setup I'm running right now with the bench radio where my dead key is at, it's a 50-watt dead key. You know, and that is low for a 2x8. You can bump that up to about 100 to 200 watt dead key, no problem. But we'll just roll with it like it is, and I'll let you make those adjustments as you'd like. Alright, 1,000-watt slug, 4-watt radio. Focus camera. About 380 watts RMS. And of course, you know what that's going to be, peak. Off the scale, 1,000 watts in the corner. Alright. That is on 15.4 volts too, by the way. 15.4. Sorry, I pulled something on my back. Oh, let me show you the input reflect real quick. Input tune. Of course, we got a lot of attenuation on it, you know, so when you got a lot of attenuation or whatever on the box, it could give you a false input reflect reading because it's putting attenuation on your, if there's any reflect coming back, you know, from this, it's going to be attenuated with the attenuators, you know, pretty much if you look at it in that respect. But I'll tell you, man, just with the 10 ohm resistor on there, this thing had absolutely no input reflect. This thing is tuned beautiful. And to give you an example of how different this stuff can be, man, when you got different boxes, different lengths of coax, this and this, instead of this being 100 picofarad capacitor like it would be if it was in a box by itself, most of the times whenever I do a 1446 2-pill, this bad boy is right there around 40 picofarads. I've even had sometimes. You see, that's why it's good to fine tune your stuff and just don't. It's just a lot easier sometimes. Just get in there, fine tune it, and get the job done, so it can be tuned for the environment that it's in. Let's say. So here's your input reflect, 10 watt slug. Oh, so that input reflect looks pretty much identical to the way it looks when the box is off. See? Oh. It's beautiful, man. So you have no reflect, virtually no reflect coming back. Alright, let's go ahead and hook up the hot radio and see what this booger's gonna do. See, it's all a ratio, man. Like hooking up the hot radio now. Now you may be getting out of the box what you could be getting out of it with the 4 watt radio with less attenuation. You get what I'm saying? So we're putting 8 watts RMS into it now, which is about 30, 40 peak, somewhere around there. And what we're about to see is what we could be getting out of it with a little bit less attenuation with just the 4 watt radio. You see what I'm saying? I just had to repeat that twice because it's kind of can get a little confusing. Alrighty. Turn the radio on first. Alrighty. Good. 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 That's on 14. Good. 14.9. So right there, just about 500 bird. If I could keep that thing about 15.5, I did say that I was going to be hooking up on the bigger power supply, but I was like, you know, this is a different type of repair here, man. Or this is a different situation. You know, you're a builder yourself. You just wanting to have a little bit of help with this, help get you on track or whatever. It would be a little bit of work for me to hook everything up, hook another supply up, because actually my one over there I am working on. So I'm about to actually get rid of that. And this one right here has big alligator clips on it, and for me to hook that up to these, I'd have to pop these off. And you know, there ain't no need to do all that, just to show you a couple of more watts. So right now it's doing about 1300 watts peak. Right there, almost 500 bird. And that's just on a 100 amp power supply, brother. This right here really needs to be on about anywhere from 120, 150 amp power supply, I would say. Just guesstimating. But there you go, man. We got it done. Hey, I did the best job I could. I think it turned out good. You know, there's a couple of things that could be changed. You know, and the box would come up on watts just a little bit. One thing's the power wires like I described. I'm pretty sure it would help out a little bit. I'm a big fan of the 1.5" transformers. That would allow you to allow the transistors to give them an environment where they can handle a little bit more drive, maybe a little bit more voltage. To me, that's kind of the happy medium. Then you got to deal with the attenuation over here too. That's why sometimes variables are nice to have on certain situations. But if you got a radio that you can adjust that dead carrier, man, shoot. I would take this 100 ohm off right here and start like that, and maybe even go lower right there. But I'll let you play around with that, bud, because you know what you're doing when it comes to that kind of stuff, you know. I think you just needed just a little bit of direction, that's all. And if you said you were seeing about 400, and we just showed about 500, a little bit more, that's a good deal, man. Just remember, don't solder your input transformers. I normally don't put caps on the input transformers on 454 builds, but hey, man, I saw no need to remove them. I didn't see any issues on the input reflect for it. I was able to get it down good and low, so I just left them on there. Let's see here. I know that fan ain't got no resistor or nothing on it, so I'm on the unregulated supply, so that's why I made sure not to let that thing turn on. I didn't want to pop that thing, man. I was going to say something. I don't forget what it is now. The box is balanced good, man. I talked on it for a little bit earlier. I felt no heat at all on the resistor right here, so that's good, man. It means both sides are good and balanced. One thing I did notice, just by my eyeball, it does almost, this is what I forgot that I was going to say. It almost looks like these two input transformers over here are different transformers, meaning they may have come out of a different box, or they're a different manufacturer than these over here. The reason why I say that, these look a little shinier than these, and the backs of them, now, I could be wrong, it could be the way the light's hitting them, but I didn't see any issues with imbalance or anything like that. But just in the future, it's always very important to use all the same transformers. I've had some very many hour nights due to stuff like that I was in the blind of, that I didn't know any better about. Oh my goodness. I had a nightmare one time with a 6 bill because of that. So, well, good luck, buddy. I'm glad I was able to get this done for you, and thanks for hanging in there with me, man. We'll get the top back on here and find your screws. I can't remember if you had screws on this top or not when you sent them. I'll see if I can't find something to fit in there. If I can't find where I put them, I usually put them in a bag and leave them in the box, but I'll find them, man. It's just screws, right? We'll see you, man. Good luck, buddy. Bye-bye. 73s.